Is there any favorite food of Malaysia that you're gonna miss? I mean, that you did miss? Well, you weren't gone that long, were you? Oh, I need that little side plate.
Yeah. This is Maggi Goreng Ayam. Yeah, that's generally the.
I always think that stuff is loaded with what's it, MSG. It tastes,
Yeah.
You get like a bit of a rush after eating that stuff.
Yeah, well, anyway, it's good. It tastes good. At the end of the day, it's the same thing. Even like, for instance, when I'm back in South Africa, I always go for pork ribs. As in, that's just my go-to food.
Pork ribs, yeah.
Yeah. Barbecue
The
pork
baby
ribs.
ones or the like big ones?
Oh, the big ones. The big ones. So I'm okay with either ones. But yeah, the Mirvaz, that's just one thing that I usually go for. But yeah, Malaysia, it's also a case of, I think, the 24-hour kind of restaurant style with your mamaks and everything. So,
Don't you go for the prata?
Pata?
Roti canai, sorry.
Roti Chana? Uh, yeah, I do, but then again, as in that's from time to time. So even for instance, cheese naan, that is one thing that one of my friends is crazy about.
Cheese nut.
Yeah, cheese naan.
Doesn't sound that good.
No, it is good. It is, honestly speaking, that is probably one of the best foods that you actually try in your life. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna stick it up here because Ruth is sometimes saying something stupid.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
clever.
Wow.
How about local insight?
Okay, so let's talk about the tech stuff. So
Tech stuff. Okay.
okay, and also I look into the camera sometimes just to make it look like the audience is involved. Heyo. Can I assume that you're moving to South Africa and from Malaysia, and that's a given, and you're trying to do something out in South Africa?
Yeah, so pretty much that's the plan right now. That I'll be permanently based in South Africa itself. Trying to start up something, taking up a CTO kind of role in terms of running the tech side of things in the company.
You might be going to South Africa with like, I don't know, a team and an idea or something. So it seems like you've just moved from Malaysia to
South Africa. So the thing is that right now I'm supposed to be going back to Malaysia to talk with my previous company. I'm not too sure as to what arrangements they might actually have because I was doing a bit of remote work for them whilst I was back in SA. So I think, I'm not too sure if you're following what I was doing. It was writing serial-based code for this one device that they required.
serial.
Yeah, serial. So
You're just communicating in serial, like
Communicating-
AT commands and all that.
exactly. So that was necessarily over Bluetooth. But the thing with Apple is that it's a bit of a schlep using the whole
Jesus Christ, this is spicy.
using the whole made for iPhone interface and having to make sure that you've got a protocol string, else you can't communicate with the device at all. So that was a bit of a learning process. But one way or another, it got done. As in, it's able to send a command where it shows the amount, you make your payment, and often it sends back a request and being able to process that through the application itself.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, what does it do? To make a payment? Like, is it
Yes.
like an Apple Wave type thing?
Yeah, so pretty much like with your terminals, it's actually a Castle MP200 device where you can actually either use PayWave or you can actually use the chip and pin or even the swipe facility, but having to do all of that through the iPad application.
Oh, so it sort of,
Yeah.
so it's like an iPad becomes the till, or the
Yeah, so the company that I was working for,
becomes the point of sale.
yeah, it was a point of sale system. So generally, so most of the times with these same terminal devices, they provide an SDK of one sort or another. So you don't necessarily have to write all the serial code yourself. All you do is you send the amount, you get something back,
Yeah.
nothing to deal with it. So with this is a case of you have to deal with hex, and if you know anything about Unicode, understanding the Unicode characters. So during the process, I was able to actually read the stuff offhand, where you can actually see it as in those all the two characters. So for instance, I know that 33 would be the number
Oh,
3.
it'd like be a two thing. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Was it the case that you were like the only guy that knows how it works, and now they had to get you back in the office? Probably something like that.
Yeah, pretty much, because it was a bit of a situation that at the beginning of the year, one of our iOS developers had actually resigned. So
Oh god.
yeah, after that, it was a case of sort of like a domino effect. So I necessarily tendered in my resignation, which was 2 months, and then deciding to leave by the
I
end.
feel sorry for your employers. They're probably absolutely witless, aren't they?
Yeah, but the main is that hey, it was a great team to work with. The only problem I had was obviously just a case of pay and working hours, where I'm like, I can get better benefits working in South Africa.
Oh really?
Yeah, or
But
if
South Africa pays badly, doesn't it? I mean,
not necessarily so. As in, like for
we
example,
are comparing to Malaysia, I guess.
yeah, that's the thing. So, like for example,
Yeah,
even when you're looking at your iOS devs, starting salaries could easily be around 35,000 USD per year. But if, for example, you're looking at working with US companies, that can range from around 60 and above. As in the likes of Facebook and the rest, obviously paying around 100.
I guess the cool thing about South Africa, you're in a better time zone to work with US companies.
True.
And obviously
true.
The European market opens up.
Yeah.
That's the thing I've always been irritated about living around here. Besides my failing marriage, is no, I'm just joking about that.
I think you didn't hear that.
the time zone.
Oh, yeah.
Rid is the one.
I'm immune to this.
No, the time zone.
Yeah.
The time zone is a huge issue in this region because you can't work with the American market. My ex-boss used to said to me, or reminded me that like the way the world works is America is more than 50% of the world market.
True.
Asia is less than 20, and Europe makes up the rest.
Yeah.
So if you're not really catering for these markets, you're kind of goon it. And
Yeah.
And I would occasionally meet up some weird startup here in Singapore that somehow thinks they're going to make it big in America. How are you going to make it big in America?
Okay, let me try some.
You're out of sync
Oh yeah. Yeah, you actually have to get yourself there.
with the American consumer. You're like, you don't have a chance. Sorry.
Yeah, because that's why, for instance, right now, Silicon Valley is still where it's at when it comes to a whole lot of innovation. Because, like, when you look at most of the startups these days, they generally copy what's already been done in the US, which is a bit tragic. But then again, as in, you look at the US market, is where you either really succeed or you really fail.
Okay, we all know how awesome Silicon Valley is. So, you were in South Africa, like I was a few months back.
Yeah.
Do you go back there often? Or was it a new experience for you?
Well,
in a way?
okay, so the thing that, like, the last time I'd actually been to South Africa prior to heading there, this was last month. That was the end of 2015. Yeah, so I was in...
So a couple of years back.
Yeah, so that was pretty much Johannesburg and then going to Cape Town for the holidays. But the thing is that, hey, you do see quite a lot of new startups coming around. So, for example, SnapScan is one of them.
SnapScan. What's the other one called?
Yeah.
Zip, I think it's
this is Zapper, or Zappers.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, even like Luna, if you know about Luna, the Bitcoin startup.
Nope.
Yeah, so they used to be called BitX, but they
Alright.
used to trade between...
And then Standard Bank had
Yeah.
that card, which got a lot of Hacker News love.
Yeah, so this was Roots. Yeah, that was an initiative because like that's actually being done by OfferZen, which is a platform where they necessarily get offers coming to developers for companies who are looking for coders and one from another. That was something new that I actually also
But
found.
Standard Bank got the people from OfferZen.
OfferZen, yeah, OfferZen. That's those are the guys that I actually partnered with. Because if you check the product on, that's why I was quite surprised. I was like, okay, these guys actually partnered together to actually.
Because there's usually quite a...
Yeah.
Banks are very reluctant to put their name against any...
True, because like even SnapScan is also a partnership with Standard Bank as well.
Did you actually use these services when you're out there?
Okay, SnapScan I have used, even Zappers as well. I think it's mainly due to the fact that hey, you see that there's a discount that you get for using the service for the first time.
Oh,
whatever.
really? Yeah, like
Yeah.
the Uber...
So that's one thing. Like for example, when I'm in Malaysia, you just get so many promo codes just being sent to your phone. You're like, might as well just use them. But
It does work, it works.
Yeah, it does work.
It works.
So, like for example, with SnapScan, it's a case of I think trying to make it easier for payments to be done. Because like if you think about payments, most of the time cash is actually quicker to do compared to having to take out your card and typing in your code or whatever. If it's like PayWave, it's quite versatile, right?
It's
Where
quite fast.
Yeah, it's quite fast. Whilst, for example, if it comes to having to pay things on the very get-go, also having to educate people, it becomes a bit of a schlep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the worst thing about the whole PayWave experience is usually people, at least here in Singapore, I don't know what's like in Malaysia, they have to like sort of set up their what do you call it, their PDQ to accept. Like they have to ask you, oh, are you using Visa or MasterCard? You're using Visa.
Yeah.
And then they have to do and then you can scan and usually then sometimes I think it was the cheese shop just down the road. To my horror, it still does dial-up.
Okay.
And that's why it's a little bit slow.
Yeah.
If it was on the internet, like, why aren't these things on the internet? If it was straight on an IP connection,
Yeah.
it would be so much a better experience. It's
I
insane.
think it's also a case of education, because you realize that sometimes people just don't know, and
Or don't even think that's an option or something.
true. So the thing is that if you just don't know, you'll pretty much just be stuck to using what you've always been used to. So sometimes, when you ask a question of just like, why exactly is this hotel using these facilities in one form or another, sometimes nobody's actually told them that there's actually something better. Or it could be a case of bureaucracy where you've got a whole lot of red tape in terms of trying to get something pushed through in one form or another.
But let's focus back on African stuff. So,
Yeah.
so do you think you're looking forward to live there, or are you a bit apprehensive, or you're optimistic? Because I mean, to contrast that with my own experience, I guess I left South Africa being a little bit not optimistic. What is that term?
Pessimistic.
Nah, pessimistic's the wrong term.
Yeah.
I would say something in the middle. What is that called? I don't know. Confused.
Okay, all right. Okay, so when you're talking about South Africa, I think the one concern for most people is like security.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So,
No, maybe just throw it in there, or without.
what? Can I throw it in?
spelling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Come to me.
yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Cool.
Security.
Security. I think that's the main concern for quite a lot of people when they think of South Africa. So, like even where I'm staying right now, it's obviously.
Are you staying in a nice area, Bryanston? Or?
No, it's in the outskirts of
Oh shit!
of Johannesburg.
You're gonna say Soweto or something?
No. Okay, so the thing is that before I used to stay in the Fourways area. So Fourways was one place which is one of the
It's characterized by a big mall, isn't it?
Fourways Mall is
It's like
one place.
living in Mid Valley or something.
Yeah. But the thing is that at least like for instance, when you think of South Africa, most of the suburban areas at least are landed properties. You don't necessarily have condominiums and stuff like that, like what you see in Malaysia is in every single place, unless you go to like the Monkiara or your Bangsa sort of areas.
Yeah, Mankara doesn't have a lot of land, does it?
Well, they're quite, some areas, but that's the thing, as in that's where we used to stay, but now we've necessarily moved on to a farm. So the things that the
You're
farm,
on a farm.
Yeah, actually,
You don't have internet, probably, right?
no, we actually do. So the things that
Is it fiber? No.
it's right now wireless. They're using Ubiquiti, surprisingly so.
Ubiquiti is good stuff.
Yeah, so that's that's one thing I actually want to get into South Africa. There's already a market for it, but pretty much trying to make it a bit more mainstream, especially like on your consumer side, where I think people just don't see the benefits compared to the crap that you usually get from these same APs that the likes of Linksys and
I looked
whatever.
into. I'm a huge fan of Microtech actually.
Yeah.
Because they're cheaper than Ubiquiti and they
True.
have the same hardware typically. And I actually even would go so far to say I enjoy the power features that Microtech offer.
Okay, so the thing is that I presume if you're a power user, it would make sense. But like for example,
But Ubiquiti has a beautiful UI.
Yeah, so that's the thing. As in, when you look at even like your iPhone, maybe people might say otherwise. But the thing is that with the iPhones, it's simplistic. It works. You pay a premium for it, but that's what you're paying for. As in something that you're necessarily happy with. With Android, you necessarily have more features. You've got a whole lot of things. You can even customize it.
I wouldn't compare Microtech to Android, but I get your point.
Yeah, but the thing is that, like for example, you can even have your own terminal on your Android device, and you can.
I have a terminal, man.
Yeah, you can do that. But the thing is that, like for example, when people talk of Android, you can customize the hell of it out of it. And even when you're talking about open source, you don't necessarily get that same sort of.
But Microtech isn't open source, actually. And you're pretty locked to the interface.
True. So
Have you tried them out?
I have not necessarily tried them out because at the time I was just looking at something that's easy to set up, and I think that's also the main concern when it comes to wanting to set something out for like home users.
Yeah.
Is that you want something very simple. As in, power users will always have their niche as to what they want to do. So even like with the Mac Pro, people had a huge complaint that now they're just catering for.
Oh, did you buy one by the way?
I have not bought one yet. No, because the thing is that right now I've got an aging MacBook Air, and I'm in a bit of
It's
a
like discontinued now, right?
yeah. It's a bit of
Why
a.
did you do Xcode development on that thing?
It's surprisingly quite versatile. The thing is that at the end of the day, I've been able to customize my Mac to do a few things. So, like for example, I'm using HyperDoc for window management, where I can snap.
The full window manager in Mac OS. I'm sorry, it's a sick joke. But carry
Yeah,
on.
it is. So the thing is that at least, like for example, with a Mac, like with what you've got with a Windows machine or even a Linux box, is that you can customize things compared to like your mobile operating system.
This is why I love Arch.
Yeah,
Simple.
I suppose so. But hey,
Okay, you customize it. You got something
I-
eked out.
yeah. So the thing is that hey, I'm an iOS developer. If, for example, they allowed for development to actually happen on the likes of Linux or even Windows natively in terms of like Swift and Objective C, fine. But as far as it goes, it's mainly like your
So
cross-platform tools that
you
can
haven't
use.
bit the whole JavaScript.
What?
What is it called?
What, hype?
Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid. Okay. The thing with with me is that I do touch on the same stuff, but you also have to be pragmatic as to how you
I
go
think
about things.
JavaScript is so pragmatic.
Okay.
You can use
No.
it everywhere.
No, you can use it everywhere, but the thing is that it's a case of there's just so much happening. It's the same thing like right now. We live in a day and age where you have information everywhere. But now it's not necessarily a concern that we don't have information, but filtering down the stuff that is relevant. So like even with React, you always hear of things of one person's working on like a map component which is not compatible with the one
It's a
version of
vibrant, evolving, fast evolving
No, it's-
community.
Okay,
Anyway,
it is good, but
so
I
you're
am
sticking
not.
to Swift.
I'm sticking to
I'm
Swift
just-
and Objective C.
What I want to
Yeah.
hear from you is
Yeah.
that I've given up on my iOS developing days. I'm going to move into web development.
Mm-hmm.
I want to start up a SaaS company
Yep.
that's got a particular African angle, whatever the hell that
Yep.
is. And it's going to be awesome. The future's awesome.
True. So like for example,
Well, anyway, we've been
Yeah.
straying between topics here.
Okay.
Let's finish with the security one. So
Security one.
you're on a farm.
yeah, we're on
You're
a
not
farm.
going to get any farm invasions, I guess.
No, not really. But the thing is that I think
You
it's
don't have weirdos walking around and stuff like that.
no, as in like for example, even where we're located, it's around like 4 kilometers away from Dipsloot, which is sort of like a location. If you know what a location
Sounds like
is.
a very
Yes,
weird name. Say that again.
A location, which
No,
is pretty,
the name of the town.
Dipsloot. Dipsloot. It's pretty much an
Sounds
an
like-
informal settlement.
Oh, it is an informal zone.
Yeah. So the thing is that at the end of the day, to be quite frank, even when you go to such places, the dangers that people necessarily hype up are, I think, hyped up. It's not really the reality because, like for example, even with the farm, we actually grow our own produce.
All right.
And there was actually the one time where I just took the Hilux pickup and went into Dipsloot and often we're just selling the same vegetables around there.
Okay. Well, it's probably. I
Yeah.
mean, not to sound too naive about
Yeah.
it, but like, it's probably all right when you're in there. But
Yeah.
like, when you're maybe in like a better neighborhood, you feel a bit more vulnerable or something.
Yeah, I suppose so. It's like, for example, even right now when you consider like Singapore. Singapore is,
I love this place.
yeah, it's a wonderful place.
The weather's a bit bad lately. I don't know why.
Whilst, like, for example, if I go to Malaysia, it's a different story altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the things that it all depends as to how much
Yeah.
of a zest you've got for a certain particular area. As in, at the end of the day, you can talk to one person who might say that I love Bangkok, but when you go there, you're like, I hate this place.
Actually, I don't really think much about that.
Yeah. So the thing is that it all depends on the person. As in, we've all got our own interests as to where exactly we want to be in life. So, like for example, with South Africa, I still see it as a place that we have a whole lot of opportunity to look into. If
So-
things don't necessarily work out, it could be a case of looking somewhere else.
Okay, so you got a place to stay. You
Yeah.
got your Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I've got my
You got your
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it's 20 megs at least. Yeah.
So your immediate priorities is to work for someone as opposed to start a business, say, right?
No, my immediate priority is actually to work for myself right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so the thing is that it would be more towards like networks and more from one another. and seeing as to how things go from there. Because currently the one business that we are doing is building out websites.
So your dad is not like a farmer. He's an IT guy too, or something.
He's actually got a background in mining. Well, actually, he's actually a mining engineer.
Yeah.
So the things that he semi-retired, as in he retired, I think around 5 years back or so. But the thing that's one thing he noticed is that you don't necessarily retire. You actually still want to continue working.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that he's actually gotten into.
This is why I say to Ruth, I don't actually imagine myself retiring. I'm going to be doing this computer stuff
Sure.
forever.
Because
But
I
I
think
thought the other day you mentioned something about retiring. Like you want to retire?
Well, maybe from Singapore. That's what I was talking about, retirement. Because, I mean, as a South African whatever, myself, I just don't like I just need some open spaces here. I'm like, this is my backyard.
Trash cans.
It gets a bit tiring. What time? How are we doing for time?
I
It's-
think you're right. 33.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
maybe-
So I'm keen for the more open spaces, but
maybe the
yeah.
office, yeah.
okay. Oh, all right. Sorry about that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think I thought about networking stuff myself. I think, it's the problem is I guess the business model with internet is a tricky one because no one likes to pay for internet,
No, that is true. That's true. That's why.
and also just the whole fact of like a catch-all,
yeah.
signing up, registering, paying. I've never seen a good experience. I've never ever seen in my life a good experience doing that.
Yeah, so the thing is that it's not necessarily just networking as a whole, but also looking into other services that could actually be provided on top. So like even for right now, when you look at co-working spaces, those guys make peanuts. I'm surprised that they actually even make any sort of money. It makes more sense if they upsell a whole lot of other services, be it that they're doing your laundry for you, postal services as well,
Yeah.
and a whole lot of other things which
But
are value added.
it is easy to just
Yeah.
say like if you have a rent of $1,000,
Yeah.
then a month, then you have 10 guys paying $100 a month. I mean that you want that base, those sort of basics taken care of.
Yeah,
Well,
I
obviously you
suppose
can build up on top of that. Yeah. Is it a co-working space? Are there like-minded people? How's the community in
South Africa.
Dipsalot?
Yeah, Dipsalot. So Dipsalot, again, I have not necessarily ventured in that often. I usually just drive past. But when you're talking about like co-working spaces,
Or just people that hang out, like-minded people just to gel with.
to gel with. Okay, so
To gel, that's a South African word, isn't it?
yeah, so when I was actually back, one of the first things I actually did was try and look for communities, people who are like-minded, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So-
I think you're quite heavily involved in the Malaysian scene, right?
Yeah, so that was the one thing that I sort of missed when I went back, and I just
Uh-oh.
went onto like meetup.com, and the first meetup I went for was actually a testing user group.
Oh god, that sounds so lame.
Come on, but then again, as in these guys are the guys who make sure that your products are actually working. So I got a bit of insight from them. They even got me in contact with one company called Glucose. So
Oh, I mean, if you are looking for work, I do know a guy who has a company that I think he is looking for people.
yeah,
But,
yes.
you seem to be in transition.
Yeah, I'm in transition. So the things that, like, for example, it was one meetup which was for testers. The other meetup was for the Google Developer Group. So obviously talking about
GDC.
the GDG, talking about talking about their technology. Quite insightful as to what exactly you're covering. As an
So Google does have a data center in Joburg. They must do.
I don't think so, because like right now, most of the data centers aren't actually in Africa.
Well, I know Hetzner has a presence, which is bizarre.
Yeah,
but,
Hetzner are one of those guys that, hey, I'm also hosting with them, but you know, right now,
otherwise there's no one else.
yeah, because like right now I'm actually having a pain with a DNS server. I actually want to point my name servers to what I'm using, which is
It's one of these.
Yeah, it's very simplistic, and I can't really do much about it. And the things that even wanting to transfer the domain, there's a 60-day window, which I actually forgot about. So when I was transferring, all of a sudden you're paying like 10 USD.
They're
and
very
then-
old school, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, but then again, as in it was
They're
Google.
they're like Malaysia's exabytes or something crap like that.
True. Where
I
I
hate
think
you guys.
hey, at the end of the day, that's the thing. These are guys who are popular, but even though they're really good guys, they're really not good at marketing themselves, which is the unfortunate
Yeah.
part about the community. Where
And they
you
look like
actually-
they're. I mean, I'm willing to bet. I mean, I used to use Hetzner for a dedicated server in Germany. They didn't change their UI for all the years that I used it. At least with DigitalOcean and AWS, you can actually feel something happening.
Which are US companies again.
Yeah.
Was even the likes of GitHub, GitLab, also Americans.
I'm sure Hetzner just got some big ass German deals and they just sat. Germany, I think.
Yeah, it should be German.
Should be German, yeah. There are a lot of Germans in South Africa, actually, I'd say. And they do their little businesses here and there. And I guess some guy from Hetzner has some sort of connection. That's what I'm just speculating. So, yeah, I think, well, so Joburg doesn't have a data center, it doesn't have a community.
No, well, again, it does have communities,
It does
but
have Wi-Fi, though.
okay. So the things that one thing I've actually necessarily found out is that you necessarily have to put yourself out there. So that's why I had to go onto Meetup.com to actually find out where these communities are. So one of my
Joburg is quite spread out too.
It's quite spread out
to get from some places to others.
Yeah,
especially if it's downtown. God.
True. So the thing is that I'm actually staying in Centurion to be exact. Which is
Centurion is a
but it's a very
central.
short distance away from Johannesburg. So that's why I necessarily commute between where I'm staying and Johannesburg. And even like, for example, I went for Startup Grind. This was happening in Pretoria, which is around.
It's not too difficult to get to Pretoria, I guess.
Yeah, it isn't too difficult. So that's the thing. As in, at the end of the day,
isn't there like a train nowadays? You can go all the way to Pretoria.
Okay,
Don't bother.
There is a cow train, but the thing is that, like, for example, where I'm located, it doesn't really make much sense. So, like, for instance, even if I want to use an Uber or whatever, I'm like, it makes no sense for me to use that. I might as well just drive.
Oh yeah, you have a car.
So that's the benefit, that at least I've got a car there. If, for example, I was staying maybe in the Fourways area, I might walk to a bus station near like Monte Casino and then probably take it from there. But unfortunately, so that's, I think, one of the things that I do miss when wanting to go back to South Africa is that in Malaysia or even here in Singapore, transportation is quite
it's
easy.
quite smooth. Yeah.
Quite smooth. So it's quite easy for you.
I miss driving, but at the same time, it is nice to actually be able to do other stuff while getting to some place. Because sometimes, like, I was driving, when I was staying in the Cape, I was like driving here, driving there. And you can't, I mean, maybe it's just because I'm driven for so long.
Yeah.
But when you arrive at the event, you're kind of tired.
Okay. Yeah. But
because you've been like focusing on not getting killed for the last 2 hours.
Yeah, but then again, as in, like with me, it's a case of not like I don't like driving, but the mere fact is that if someone else is driving like an Uber, at least I can do something else.
Yeah.
I can either be reading a book or I can necessarily check
I guess
up
in the
on
car
movie.
you can listen to a podcast.
I've never necessarily been a fan of podcasts.
No, really?
I find them to be more like newspapers as well. If, for example, it needs to be said, I'll actually hear it from someone.
Well, the trouble I have with podcasts is that people just don't edit them.
Okay, I see.
It's like one of those things. People just, usually, like, there's one podcast that's local here called Rebuild, like a community one.
Yeah.
They do it live, which I'm never there to listen to, and then they just upload it. They never bother to sort of like read it down.
To actually just like
condense it.
Yeah, true.
Like I'm having to this is like, oh my god, how am I going to condense this? It's 35 minutes.
No, I suppose you can like cut it into certain sections.
I would edit it down to more interesting bits.
True.
But no one does that with podcasts. So I'm listening to a podcast and then like there's like one chestnut after 10 minutes, and I'm like, this is not being a great spend.
So that's why
I could have played with my kid.
Exactly. So that's why I love audiobooks. Audiobooks are preferable.
Oh, okay.
So like, like with Audible, at least they've got a 365-day return policy on any of their books.
What are you going to return it?
No, as in whenever you want. As in, like, for example, I think there was this one podcast talking about a former US president. It was a very long one. It was very boring. I think that was one of the few books I necessarily just wanted to return because I was just not satisfied with it. Yeah, so the thing that's generally what you have. Like even with the Kindle, I think they've got a 2-week return policy. That if you don't like the book, you can actually return it back.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so like the reason why I think I like the likes of audiobooks, or even old books as well, that's why, for instance, I think you'll get more insight from old books or even textbooks compared to like new stuff, because new stuff will be around for a short while, but you don't know how.
10. Oh, okay. Yeah, we get this.
Okay. All right.
10,
Thank you.
But, oh my god.
Hi.
Let's see if I've got something. It was like right now.
Without pen.
Then they take card. No.
Okay, I've only got 100. Maybe you can get the split. I'd actually prefer that. That would be.
I've
okay.
never seen one of those. No.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah. Anyway. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So.
that's embarrassing. Okay. I was gonna say like
Yeah.
I'm working in a streaming company right now,
Okay.
and we always like we're counting minutes watched, but we
Yeah.
don't really count if the person just didn't like it or something.
Okay. I see. Yeah, because.
But, so
yeah.
I like this idea of returning thing. That's
Yeah.
a good idea.
Yeah, because like honestly speaking, as
But
in,
I guess it's not good for money though. If you Amazon, you can take the hit.
yeah, it's
Customer obsession, but a lot of little companies like
True.
you can't really do it.
Yeah, I think when you're starting off small, that's when I think you're gonna get hit quite a lot. So that's why, for example, you look at Audible. Audible is actually owned by Amazon.
Yeah. I can
Zappos
take it.
as well, which is a shoe company, that's also owned by Amazon. So at least they've got a whole lot
Because,
of
like, for
leverage.
example, the company I'm working for right now, they pay a lot for
Yeah.
people to refer them
Yeah.
to the business.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I didn't come up with this incentives, but
All right,
the
thank you very
incentives
much.
are maligned because we get
All
really
right, cool.
we get really bad referrals, and they obviously they buy something and then they later feel tricked or something because they were pretty much tricked.
Yeah,
and then we have to pay the
unfortunate, of
referrer
course. Yeah.
and give a refund, so it's like a double loss.
True. So that's why I suppose you have to balance it out. And that's why I actually hate companies that don't have a return policy.
Yeah.
Because like for instance,
Malaysia is really bad.
yeah, so like for instance, if I buy a product, if I don't like it, I'd like to return it. But most likely you'll have a returning customer if, for example,
Okay. Just conclude here very
Yeah.
quickly. You're moving back to South Africa.
yeah,
You're hoping to build a community.
build a community, that's a great thing about it. Once you build a community, that's when you can build great products. Because if
Yeah.
you have no community,
So-
no products.
Maybe you should say, how do people connect to you?
Yeah, well, they can connect with me on Twitter. That's one place I'm generally on. So DJ Ngoma. Hopefully you'll be able to put that down.
It'll be downstairs.
Yeah. But
Description.
that's generally one place I actually am quite active on. Other than that, as in, hey, you can also shoot me an email, daliso@africantechno.com. That's currently what I'm actually using for correspondence. And yeah, as in, if anything, yeah, just shoot me a message. And if you're around like
Yeah.
South Africa, or maybe I might be somewhere else, we can probably just meet up and see how things go.
Okay, well, I wish you all the best.
Yeah, thank you, Kai.
Cool. I'll be out there one day. I think my wife and child probably has to experience the adrenaline rush of
Oh,
South
yeah.
Africa.
Yeah, that is true.